Hi, I'm Susan Fumagalli. I am a bilateral above knee amputee, and I am Senior Associate Director of Athletics at Gettysburg College. And fortunately, I am accompanied by Susquehanna service dog, Marshal, to aid in the support of my disability. I have had him exactly 14 months, and it has been an amazing 14 months. He has changed my life. One of the things he does is open doors, literally, for me. He'll push the handicap button. But the other thing that Marshall does is he has helped open up a world that I really struggled with as I was dealing with losing both of my legs and trying to rehab through. And he has given me so much more confidence as I live my daily life. At one point before Marshall, I would question whether or not I would want to walk any type of distance because of what might happen. If there was a slope, I might struggle with it. But with Marshall by my side, I choose to go walk a mile with him because I can. He has given me that confidence. I stop thinking about what might be ahead. If there's a slope, we walk down that slope together. And having that confidence on the other side of that leash makes a huge difference because we are concentrating on one another, not over the challenge that might be ahead. SSD stands for Susquehanna Service Dogs, and they are a part of Keystone Human Services, and they have a staff that is committed to the whelping and training and raising of future service dogs. When I became an amputee, I knew I wanted a service dog to assist me with my challenges. And I began my research immediately, and the first organization that I came across was Susquehanna Service Dogs. I was so impressed with everything that I was reading about how they train dogs, how they support dogs and partners, and the number of volunteers that are involved with the organization. And I continued to do additional research to evaluate various things, and I kept going back to SSD because of the commitment that they have to the lifetime of the dog and the lifetime with its partner. And it was just absolutely incredible. And they were the only organization that I pursued. The commitment that they have to training a service dog and allowing the dog to choose what career that they want is so impactful for the potential partner and for the dog, because the dog obviously chooses to do what it's really good at, and it creates a very dynamic relationship. But one of the things they do throughout the entire puppy's journey, it's all about positive reinforcement. The dogs are never forced to do anything that they don't want to, and they are rewarded for a job well done. So the dog always has the choice, and it's that positive reinforcement that does so much for the puppies in training that lead to great potential for a service dog. But they also identify and do puppy classes throughout the raising to build those skills that any service dog would need. And then they bring them in for a little bit more training and see what their strengths are. And if a life of service, whether it be balance, mobility, psychiatric type service dog, any type of service dog, medical alert dog, there are dogs that will go to the ATF or the CIA, just depending upon the dog's strengths. And they do all sorts of different assessments to determine what that dog is telling them. It's remarkable, and certainly they can answer it better than me because they're involved with it, but I've learned a little bit about how they tease that out of a dog, and they can see when a dog is really happy doing a task. And puppy raisers have a huge influence on a potential puppy becoming a service dog, because in those first 18 months, the puppy raiser is the conduit. They're teaching the puppy all those skills to be a service dog. And and all the learning and the early socialization classes with the puppies, and concentrating on all sorts of different tasks that they need to learn early on, whether it's sit, stand, stay, all of those types of things, going through a tight space and getting familiar to different surroundings, going into a down in a restaurant or under a desk, and being around a lot of people, being around loud noises, being in a quiet environment. What is the dog doing, and doing very, very well, and just really exposing them, because there's no telling what type of environment a potential balanced mobility dog would be in. No two situations are alike. So they expose these puppies over their first 18 months into a lot of different environments and a lot of different skills. So first things first is an application process that is submitted with recommendations from physicians and other support. And once that is reviewed and approved from Susquehanna Service Dog staff, you are invited for an in-person interview. And that is when your clock for a service dog actually begins, because a service dog, it doesn't happen overnight. It can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So we had that in-person interview, and I was just blown away by the more information I learned about the organization and the whole process, and reassured my commitment to wanting to stay with Susquehanna Service Dogs. It was truly amazing. And I knew my clock had started, and at some point thereafter, when they were able to identify a dog that could meet my disability needs, I would have the opportunity to attend a Meet the Dogs session where I might be able to meet one or more dogs for a potential match. And the staff at SSD is videoing all of the interactions that you have with the different dogs and assessing the relationship that might be happening, how the dog was following cues, how everything was coming together. And they take time and review the videos, they talk it out, they see what the dog is really, really good at, what the dog is really interested in doing, and they determine whether or not there's a match. And fortunately, when I had my Meet the Dog session a few years later, COVID actually slowed that whole process down because it shut the world down, and no one was spared there. So I had just a Meet the Dog session. I got a call that said that there was a dog that showed great aptitude for mobility and balance, and they asked if I would like to come and meet this dog. Absolutely. They also said you have the opportunity to wait if you want the chance to have more dogs to potentially match with, but my mentality was all it takes is one. If we match, I've gained everything, and if we don't, I've lost nothing. And fortunately, 5 weeks later, I got the phone call saying that I had a tentative match with my service dog. I had a little bit of an advantage because there was only one, so I knew right away it was Marshal, and I was over the moon, excited to begin a partnership with him and just to begin this special journey with him. And I just had the sense in my heart the minute he walked in the room, when he was taken off leash and he saw me, he came running over, and his whole body came up on my lap with his paws up on my shoulders and just gave me the biggest kiss. And I was pretty confident at that moment it was going to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So once Marshall and I matched, that was when my specific tasks came into play. One of the things that we do is step and brace. He also picks things up if I were to drop them. He can also help with the laundry. He provides lap and squish, which is direct pressure, so that if I'm struggling with pain in my limbs, he's able to provide that pressure to, give me some relief. So they worked with him for a number of weeks on all of my different specialized tasks that we have, which is pretty phenomenal. And there's a lot of different training that goes involved for about 6 weeks of training the partner everything that they need to learn about having a service dog. And that is understanding all sorts of different things about the dog, trying to understand their temperament, what they're trying to tell you. What does a tail mean? What does the position of a tail mean? And the reaction on their face, and they're reading their body language so that you're always keeping them safe. We learned all about the process of what was going to happen during team training. We received a manual that talked us through any issue that a dog might have, what to recognize if they're not feeling well, and what to do, and having a first aid kit, and what belongs in the first aid kit. And they also shared with us the support network that we have at our disposal, not only the SSD staff, but the vast number of volunteers that are available to help us through any time that we might have a question. We also learned about what was going to happen during team training and preparing ourselves emotionally and physically for team training. Because team training is 3 weeks where the partner and the dog learn to work together. The first few days we're learning all the new cues: sit, stay, visit, down, under, all of these types of things that help keep the dog safe. We learn how to walk them past distractions of kibble, whether something fell on the floor, going through a grocery store, loud noises, and how to handle all of these types of things. And never underestimate how tiring it is for both the dog and the partner. So they take their time in working with us together and individually to make sure that we're going to be a successful team. These 3 weeks of team training helps the dog and the partner come together and learn and understand. But the staff is also making sure that we're going to be safe when we are out in public, that the dog is always safe, that we're safe, and we know what to do to keep them safe. So we have a public assessment every single year, but in the first year we have one at 6 months to make sure that we are executing the cues appropriately and covering all the different bases. And it's remarkable the bond that grows with partner and dog throughout the entire process. And just when I didn't think Marshall could love me more, a few weeks after team training, you could see that he did. You're my human, and he is my dog, and it was the beginning of a beautiful partnership, and we can see that bond strengthen every single day. Getting back to about why SSD, the other thing that makes SSD very special is they are accredited by Assistance Dogs International, and that accreditation is good for 5 years, and they renew it every 5 years, and it's an important part of a service dog backing, that an international organization is recognizing Susquehanna service dogs as a preeminent leader in providing service dogs for those in the disability community. And having that credential and having that backing, Marshal, everywhere we go is incredible. The other thing that we learn in team training is how to handle difficult situations. Service dogs are protected by the ADA, and they are allowed access everywhere where their partner goes. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. People at a business or a restaurant or any public establishment, a hotel or whatever, they do not always understand that a dog with a service dog vest is protected by the ADA, and they'll decline the dog entrance. And I actually had that happen to me after we had been partnered at a hotel. It's like, we don't allow dogs. And I said, he is a service dog that is protected by the ADA. And it was a difficult conversation, but SSD prepared me for that conversation. I knew exactly what to say, and I was able to explain it and show the staff a couple of different things, and they're like, thank you so much for the education. Very helpful, very much appreciated. And having that in my back pocket just made life so much simpler because of the support that I had in the early learning how to handle a difficult situation, and made it less so. I hope they realize the need for service dogs, and when they see a service dog, that they respect the relationship. There are so many people that see a dog and ignore the vest, and when the vest gets ignored and they're engaging the dog, that can distract the dog from its work with its partner, and taking that away for one. But also there's such a need for puppy raisers, and there's a national shortage for puppy raisers across the country, and we need people to raise these puppies to produce solid service dogs in the future, and hoping that people can come away with the want to raise a puppy and really change a life for someone like me, but at the same time changing their lives. It is an incredible experience to work with Marshal's puppy raiser, and they gave me such an incredible gift, but to have that relationship with them is incredibly special, and to see what is possible, and to raise funds for Susquehanna service dogs is tremendously helpful to help the puppy raising program, to help partner eventual service dogs with a person with a disability is also incredibly important. But any awareness that is raised about puppy raising and service dogs in general is just absolutely incredible. I applaud the softball team's effort to want to do this, and I had the opportunity to showcase Marshal and introduce them together and show him what he does for me, and they were just amazed at seeing him work and how special that relationship is, and just a little glimpse at how he has helped change my life.